Hi guys, welcome to our mix and match series where in this video we're going to be focusing a little bit on our hips, flexibility and strength. You'll need your mat, just you and your mat, and yeah, we're going to start actually with standing with the feet in parallel and just warming up a bit, bringing those arms to I Dream of Jeannie, trying to keep the center of you over the center of your feet, your mat, so no shifting side to side, and just raising the left knee up towards the chest, putting it down, switching for the right, and marching in place. And what you're really looking for here, in addition to trying to avoid the side-to-side shift, is the curve of the spine, so that as you're marching in place, if you're tight in the hip, sometimes the tendency will be to round the spine to get that knee higher, and we don't want that. So you're keeping your lovely strong core and your neutral spine. And also sometimes we lean back if we're a little weak. As we get to the end range of our hip flexion, then we lean back a bit. So those two things to watch for in addition to the side-to-side movement. And then we can just speed it up here once you get comfortable, because our goal here is to just get our blood flowing a little bit, find our center, and warm up those hips. Good. 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Beautiful. Place your weight into your right leg and have the left leg forward. And we're going to practice raising a straight leg, and we're looking for the same things, right? We're trying not to round in the back to get the leg up, and we're also trying not to lean back. So arms can be out to the sides. They can be on your hips for a little bit of feedback if you want. But as you go to raise the leg, you're going to initiate with some deep abdominals, a feeling of nice length in the spine as you lift, and you feel the power from the front of the hip to lift the leg and lower. Lift and lower. So it's a little different with a straight leg versus the bent knee. If you're tight in the hamstrings, this will be much harder, right? You're having to overcome the tension in the hamstrings as you lift that front leg, as you work the front of the leg, I mean. Good. And we're going to try to do 4, 3, 2, and you're going to hold this one up because that's hard. You're going to be taller in your spine. Flex the foot now and see if you can lift that whole straight leg a little bit higher. For 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Sweep that leg back behind you now. And you're going to hinge forward at the hip. So you're a little soft in your knee. You lean forward at the hip, right? And from here, we're going to bend that back knee and straighten it. Bend the back knee and straighten it. And this is just a little bit of hamstring work. And you want that thigh to stay nice and still. So sometimes we will bring the knee forward as we bend. And what you'd like to do is you'd like to stay long and lengthened in the hip flexor and really work that hamstring. Keep the knee bent here. And you're going to press the whole thigh a little more behind you and lower. A little more behind you and lower. And here you're watching in particular that you don't bring the back into the equation. So you don't want to arch the back as that leg lifts. You really want to match the leg going behind you with a draw in at the belly. And you get some good balance, some good work on the leg you're standing on, right? Beautiful. And straighten the leg. Stand up nice and tall, and then relax and shake it out. Because we'll do that same thing on the other side. Place your weight into your left leg. Right leg is forward, nice and straight. You're tall in your body, and you're going to lift that straight leg and lower it back down without allowing yourself to bend at the waist or lean back or do any other wonkiness, right? And try to feel before you lift that leg that you've drawn in with the deep belly, and you're almost matching the lift of the leg with a lifting of the spine as well. We'll try to do 4 more. And is one leg harder than the other? Maybe. Just something to note. Hold this one up. Good. Flex the foot and try to lift that straight leg higher for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Sweep that leg down. It doesn't need to touch the floor. You hinge forward at the waist just a little bit, just this little ahead with the chest a bit, so that that back leg can be straight behind you, the toe just on the mat for balance, and then we're going to bend the back knee and straighten it out. Bend the back knee and straighten it out. Yeah. So a little bit of hamstring work. Nice and still in that thigh. Head is in line with the rest of the spine. It's tempting to look at your feet, but you're not going to do that. And then you're going to hold this one with the knee bent, and you're going to press the whole thigh behind you. So you really have to use the glute, the back of the hip extensors. Right? As you bring the thigh behind you, match it with a draw in of the belly or a feeling of tucking the tailbone forward so that you support the low back and you don't have that arch happening. And let's do 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straighten the leg. Stand up nice and tall, release it. There we go. We're going to do one more exercise standing, and we'll go back to, what did we just stand on? We were just on our left leg, so let's go back to standing on our right leg. Put that weight into the right leg, match it by drawing up nice and tall, especially through the right side, relaxing the toes, getting your good balance. And then I want you to have your hands on the hips for this one, because as you bring the leg out to the side, I don't want you to lift from the waist to do that. It's not this. Right? The hips are going to stay level. As you slide the leg out to the side, I want you to keep it low to the mat. Low to the mat, low to the mat, low to the mat. So you're thinking of reaching long out of that leg. Yeah. And then you're going to lift it a little higher. Keep the toes facing forward and keep the leg in line with the rest of, or directly out to the side so it doesn't lift up and forward. And you should feel it in the hip. This is essentially the same thing we do when we're laying on our side and we're lifting the leg straight out to the side, only now you're having to balance on the other hip. Good. And hold it here. We're going to do 5 circles. Again, trying to stay level in the hip. Circle. Circle. Good balance, eh? And good for your hip. Yay. Perfect. Reverse your circle for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Hold it here, bend the knee, and then lift that knee a little bit higher for 8, for 7, for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Can you stay standing on that leg? Bring the leg forward. Cross that ankle above, like place it above the knee, so that then you can bend the knee and fold back at the hips, almost so the thigh creates a little shelf for this leg, and you're going to stretch out the hip that you just worked. So you're sitting back into like an imaginary chair behind you. The deeper you sit, the more you can feel it in that hip that you just worked. This one that you're standing on is working quite hard. If you need something for balance, you could have it. Keeping that neutral spine, you'll feel it more in the hip that way. And then just see if you can sit a little deeper into it. Breathe again. Sit a little deeper. And after your next breath, come out of it and shake it out. So now that hip that's feeling all good is going to support you while we do the same thing on the other side. So get your nice balance on your left leg, reach that right leg out to the side, keep the hips nice and level so that that heel is really reaching towards the floor. You can flex the foot, keep the toes facing straight ahead, and then you're going to lift it just a little bit and lower. Ooh, I feel that side so much more today. Maybe because it just worked to support us in our balance while we did the other side, but lift and lower, lift and lower. And just try to watch that the body isn't going, oh, oh, oh. Hold this out to the side and circle for 5. And yes, you're trying to make the circle big, but more you're also trying to keep the pelvis nice and still, right? So reverse your circle after 5. Good balance. 3, 2, 1. Hold it here, bend the knee, and then raise that knee out to the side. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then take that leg, place it in front, bend the knee, put that ankle up above the left knee, and then sit back in the hips. Oh, so that you have a beautiful stretch in that hip. And does this feel the same side? Often it does not. Just to take note and try to even out those asymmetries. Sit a little deeper if you can. And even a little bit deeper on the next breath. Beautiful. Holding on to something for balance. If you're not getting the stretch because you're, focused too much on reducing the wobble, come up out of that and release it. Good. We're going to come down onto our mat and we're going to sit at first. And this is one that we've done before in many of our classes, but it's a real strengthener for the front of the hips. And if you're tight in the hamstrings, or you're even just not comfortable sitting, like with the legs out straight and that nice vertical spine, then I want you to take the hands behind you and just hinge back a little bit, still keeping a neutral spine, so no rounding the spine. Still keeping a neutral spine, and that just gives you some room to lift the leg. Right? If I sit right up over the sit bones, I can lift the leg, but minimally, you can barely see it. So I'm going to hinge back today just to be more comfortable and give myself a little more room to lift the leg. You can do the same. But as you lift the leg, it's almost like you're imagining the tummy button pulling forward so that you don't lift the leg and round the back. Right? You really want to, you'll feel it a whole lot in the front of the hip. All right, so in position, nice breath in. Start with that right leg. I want you to lift it a little more, and lower it down. So just try to get right to the end range. Oh, that's hard. Lift a little more, lower it down. Lift a little more, lower. 3, 2. Last one, hold it here, and you're going to do little circles for 3, for 2, for 1, reverse it, 3, 2, 1, and lower it down. Just give yourself a moment. You can bend the knees if you want. You can round forward before we do the other side. Hinging back if you need to, but keeping that lovely long vertical spine. And lift the left leg. Lift it a little more and lower. Lift a little more and lower. Lift a little more, lower. Lift a little more, lower. We'll do 3 more after this. 3, 2, 1. Hold it up. 3, 2, 1. Little circles. And reverse for 3, 2, 1. And lower it down. Shake it out. Oh, that's hard, eh? Perfect. Let's come down onto our backs on the mat. And just because it might feel good after doing all that work in neutral, let's just do a little imprint and release. And then we're going to go into an exercise where we stretch each hip, but we also strengthen the abdominals and the core at the same time. And you'll have choices for this one. Some of you, maybe early level 2s, you want to leave the head and the neck down and just focus on pulling, say, the right knee in while the left leg straightens out, and then controlling in your center as we switch. Those of you who are at your level 3, you're going to come up in the abdominals, keeping that nice neutral spine, and you're going to straighten out the left leg. You're going to hug the right knee in, and you're really pulling, right? You're strong in your arms. You're pulling that right knee in. You're folding that hip into flexion as far as it can go. You're reaching that left leg out nice and long, and then you're controlling, so there's no movement in the pelvis or the abdominals as you switch, right? So head down, maybe early level 2, more experienced level 2, pulling up in the abdominals, up with the upper body, and switching here. And what we'll do is we'll pull in a little more, and switch. Pull in a little more, and switch. Pull in a little more. Your pelvis and low back are in neutral. Especially as you initiate the switch, you've got the deep abdominals on. Switch. And the shoulders aren't up around the ears. The elbows are wide. You're strong in the upper body, but the shoulder blades are slid down away from the ears, down your back. You're wide across the chest. And we're going to try to do 2 more on each leg. Pull the knee in, the other leg reaches straight, and switch. Pull the knee in, pull the knee in. When you switch, the legs are close together. And boom, boom. Relax it down. Good, eh? That's always a nice one for the hips. Let's let the right leg stay straight out. And with the left leg, again, maybe early level 2, you have the knee bent, and we're going to do the leg circles. But today I want you to let the pelvis move just a little bit. I want you to let that if we're doing the left leg, I want you to let that left hip lift a bit so that you can really get the thigh over across the body. What you're not going to do, though, is move through the rib cage. It's not a whole body, but you're going to allow a little movement in the pelvis because what we're going for is mobility in our hip today. If you are more experienced level 2 or the level 3, straighten that leg. Go for that full long, like reaching out long out of the toes, starting always with your neutral pelvis. Neutral low back. But then as you bring the leg across the body, you allow that pelvis to turn just a little bit. You're still in control through the rib cage. You let the leg sweep down. You try to control it as it's very low, very low, very low. I might hit the window there. Going out to the side, and coming back up and pausing in neutral, right? And we're going to do 4 more that direction and reverse. So you've got that long, long, long reach out of the tips of the toes, and circle, and pause. Circle, and you're thinking big mobility in the hip, but always control as you recenter. Big mobility in the hip, control as you recenter. Big mobility in the hip, control as you recenter. And this is our last one, in this direction. Pause. Beautiful. Reverse it. Reach that leg long out to the side, and I want you to stay level in the pelvis as long as you can here so that you feel it as a stretch in the inner thigh. Down and around, allow the pelvis to roll a little bit as you come across the midline. 4 more this way. Out to the side, out to the side. Reach the toes up towards the ceiling as well as out towards the side so that you can stay level in those hips. And again. Try to feel the hip really opening up. I'm going to hit the window. That's a good sign, I guess. Mobile hip. That's our last one, I think, is it? Pause at the center. And I want you to, again, lift. If you're the more experienced level 2 or the level 3, lift the body and grab behind that thigh and just pull in. You're still trying to keep the pelvis in neutral. You're not allowing the tailbone to lift and the back to flatten and the abdominals to bulge. You've got your form here and you're drawing in. So I'm not that flexible this way anyway. That's my max. But I'm going to pull in, and then I want you to switch. So lift the straight leg off, bring that one up, and switch. Stay nice and steady in your center, and switch. And switch. So you're pulling in a little more, and you switch. Pull in a little more, and switch. If you want to lay the head down and just work on that stretch, you can do that too. If you're lifted in the abdominals, you're still neutral in the spine and that pelvis doesn't shift as you switch from side to side. And this is just going to get you some lovely length in the hamstrings and some good strength in the core. Good. We'll do one more on each. And you're going to end with the right leg in. If you did the same side as I did last time, let the left leg straighten down on the mat. Lower the upper body, get ready for the circles. You can always do it with the knee bent. But if you're level 3, you're going for that straight leg. As the leg comes across the body, you're allowing the pelvis to roll a little bit. You're really keeping the leg low as you can control. And then out to the side with a level pelvis and back to where you started. 4 more. Circle and pause. Circle. And how does that feel compared to the other side? Maybe there's a point in the circle that you're like, oh, no, I don't like that. Try to smooth it out. Last one. Circle, pause. Reverse your direction as the leg goes out to the side. Keep the pelvis level here. Keep the pelvis level. Circle it down around and allow the pelvis to roll a little bit as you come across the body. Beautiful. And circle and pause. Circle and pause. And you've got 2 more. Circle and pause. Circle and pause. And release the leg and just stretch out nice and long. Beautiful. Good. From there, we're going to come up to kneeling. Tall kneeling, that is. And in this one, you're always welcome, especially if there's a shoulder issue or wrist weight bearing through the hand, you're always welcome to lay down and just do our regular side leg work for this one. But this is a very nice strengthening one for the under hip that's supporting you if you're able to do it in this half kneeling position. So you know where we're going. Arms out to the side. Take a nice breath in and let's lean to your right side. And just get a nice side bend through the body first. And come back up. And then on this one, we'll side bend, but then we'll land that right hand on the mat, right out from the knee, and we're going to reach the left leg out nice and long. Okay? So you're here. If you're very stiff in the hip, instead of the knee being right under you, it can be a little bit lower. That's going to make you put more weight on the arm, but it might ease the hip and allow you to keep the pelvis facing straight ahead, right? The other arm, I'd like you to bring it either, you can monitor the hip if you want, or bring it up behind the head, right? If you're tight in the shoulder, you'll need it down on the hip. From here, the pelvis stays nice and still, the spine stays nice and still, and you lift the leg, lift a little more, and lower it down. Lift, lift a little more, lower it down. Lift, lift, lower. The second lift is not a out of control kick. It's your attempt to get yourself right to the end of your flexibility and try to increase the flexibility of the hip in that moment, right? So it's not kick and kick. It's lift a little more with control and lower. Lift, lift, lower. Lift, lift, lower, and lift, lift, hold it here, flex the foot, and then sweep that leg forward, what you can control, point and sweep back, and you're keeping yourself at the same level. You've committed to a certain height, and you're going to do it. As the leg sweeps behind, it's the same thing as when we're laying on our side. You don't want the whole back to arch and the ribs to stick forward in that moment. You're holding the ribs back. You're thinking of tucking the pubic bone forward or the tailbone forward so that that motion is coming from the hip. And we can do 3 more, right? 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. You're going to hold this one back behind you, and you're going to take that top arm and you're going to reach it forward. You can even put it down on the mat if you want, right? But you're in this sort of spiral motion now, and you're going to lower the back leg and lift it. You can do it for 8, for 7, for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Beautiful. Then you're going to bend that knee, bring it in, and that arm that was in the air can just lower next to the one on the mat, and you do a nice side stretch away to try to lengthen where you just worked. If your knees are happy, you can bend right down So you're in this sort of almost a side shell stretch, if you want to call it that. I don't know if it has a name, but it feels good. Beautiful. And then you're going to center yourself. Come back up to tall kneeling. And we have to do the other side. Don't turn it off. You'll be uneven. Arms straight out to the side. Take a nice side bend first, just to lengthen. And prepare. Come back up. And then this time land the left hand on the mat with strength. Right under the shoulder, in line with the knee. Right leg straightens nice and long. Pelvis is facing straight ahead. The ribs are held back. That top arm to the top, behind the ear, if you can. And we're ready to lift, and lift a little more, and lower. Lift, lift a little more, lower. Lift, lift a little more, lower. Lift, lift a little more, lower. So that second lift, you're trying to get to the very, very end of your range, and you're trying to hold it, even if it's just for a second, so that you have the flexibility to get high, and then you also have the strength to hold it there. And we'll hold the next one up. Flex the foot, sweep that leg forward, and point and sweep back. Just what you can control, and stay nice and still in the upper body, in the rib cage, in the waist. And it might be a lot different side to side, right? Not even because of life and, a little bit of muscle imbalance or weakness, but sometimes their hips are actually like one socket is deeper than the other, or it's angled a little bit differently. They're not necessarily symmetrical, right? So you're trying to go for symmetry, but you're also recognizing some differences maybe. 3 more. Yes. 2. Good. Oh, that's hard. And last one. Beautiful. Hold this one back. Reach that top arm forward on a little spiral or down onto the mat and lift that back leg. For 8, for 7, for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1, and center it. Lower that leg down next to the one on the mat. Take that free hand and put it down on the mat with the one that was there for that lovely side stretch. Staying high in the hips if you have some knee issues, or placing those hips back towards the heels. Doesn't that feel good? And you can linger in that stretch for as long as you want, but then when you're ready, just come to center in a shell stretch. The shell stretch is really nice for both hips as well. For both hips. The shell stretch is a really nice exercise for the hips as well, because you're getting them fully bent, fully flexed. It asks that your knees be happy and healthy too, of course, but where you're breathing in and you're trying to, on your exhale, actively sink those sit bones towards the heels. And when you're happy in the shell stretch, just linger there for a few breaths. Beautiful. And when you're ready, roll it up to nice kneeling. And voila. Hopefully that's some pretty happy hips now. So that we just took the time to work all directions of the hip as far as strengthening and mobility. So hopefully you enjoy, and I'll see you for another mix and match soon, right? Have a great day. Ciao.